The question that I often get about procurement management is, what exactly is procurement management in project management? Well, procurement management is not necessarily about becoming the contract officer or the purchasing professional, but being aware enough about what kinds of processes that individual has to do or that department has to do so that you can assess what the impact is on your project. By the way, I'm coming to you from my co-working space, hence the mask. Now, procurement management is really important in project management for the simple fact that you are going to, and I mean frequently, need to get something for your project, whether it's materials, whether it's services, whether it's hiring another pair of hands, which is, frankly, pretty handy. You're going to end up having to have some kind of contract cut, some kind of purchase order cut. That you need it doesn't mean that you execute it, but it does mean that you ought to be aware of what it takes to actually execute. You know, some of us learn by scar tissue, and on occasion you can learn from somebody else's scar tissue, which, by the way, is the method that I highly recommend. And so this is how I learned about the importance of procurement management in project management. A colleague of mine had a need for a particular piece of equipment, and in our area, geographic area, it was pretty readily available. So without checking, she guesstimated that she could get it delivered in 3 weeks. And so marked her calendar to place the order 3.5 weeks ahead of schedule. Here's the problem. If you don't understand the project requirements are asking you to spend a perhaps larger amount of money, or even going to a vendor that we haven't used before, then you are going to be radically underestimating the amount of time and effort it's going to take to get that purchase order through. That request for that equipment was just over the line, requiring senior level leadership signatures. Oops. By the time that had been processed, we had to pay, we as the company that is, had to pay monumental fees for rush shipping. Why? Because that individual simply did not understand. This is not as simple as deciding when you're going to go down to the hardware store or the Christmas tree lot and pick up a tree. It's a great deal more complicated, and that's on purpose. Because the people who operate in the procurement area, the procurement function, are there to protect your organization and you from any potential liability or harm. I know. Sometimes those restrictions are awful, but they're in place primarily for your protection and the protection of the organization that's paying you. So that's important. So a couple of things. One, as soon as you start a project and you start the planning and you realize you're going to have to buy something or hire someone or contract for services just for a brief period of time, get in touch with your purchasing department, your supply chain management department. I don't care what they call it, but get in touch with the professionals in your organization who are going to be charged with making sure that you get that. Find out from them what the parameters are, what the internal process is, because you need to add that into the time frame. And also keep them apprised of when dates come maybe a little early, and it turns out you might need that a whole lot sooner. Understanding that process will help. And then ask them what they need from you in terms of the administration and executing of that contract. Because if you can help them work out some of the administrative kinks in the thing, for example, what if the contractor doesn't bother telling the person in procurement that they're done with the contract? They instead hand the deliverable over to you, ask you to sign on the dotted line, and as far as they're concerned, it's done. But if they cut an invoice and the person in purchasing hasn't seen that document that says that you've accepted their deliverable, they're not going to pay it. And rightfully so. Unfortunately, that makes for really crummy feelings all around. Relationships with vendors are just like relationships with any other stakeholder that you work with in a project environment. So remember, the relationship, the strength of the relationship, and the quality of the relationship is going to be what determines how successfully you'll be able to work together on this and other projects. So procurement management is all about making sure that a particular aspect of your project runs smoothly. If you can, build a relationship so that your procurement professional feels like part of the team. They are, you know, so it's not a bad idea. We're going to be doing a couple more videos on the subject of procurement, but as you might know, or if you don't, perhaps you can subscribe and take a look at some of our other videos. We cover a lot of different topics, and here's why. Leadership-driven project management is all about how the relationships and expectations of your stakeholders are going to affect your team, your project, and your professional success. So all of our videos are geared to things that you can do immediately, and common sense suggestions that you can start with that are very practical and actionable. And if you have a specific topic and you go through our videos and you realize that hasn't been covered yet, then I say yet because it might be on the docket. Get in touch with us and let us know. We'd be happy to move it up on the schedule a little bit. My name is Kimi Hirotsudzimski, and at KSP Partnership, we're here to serve you, and we're here to help you hone your leadership-driven project management. Thanks for joining us.